Any guesses what I'm up to? It was week 7 of the Great British Sewing Bee and it was art week. I am turning these painty overalls that I definitely had to add some interesting coloured paint to, and I'm turning them into something. However, let's begin by discussing this week's pattern challenge. This baby doll dress inspired by Grace and Perry. 4.5 hours using fabric to express themselves, which I think is quite difficult when you're in a restricted haberdashery, if that makes any sense. Like, what if the fabric that really spoke to you wasn't there? The thing that blew my mind with this, though, is halfway through the challenge and they were all still on the collar. Now, don't get me wrong, that collar contains some really tricky little details, and they had made some of it way harder than it needed to be. So that little frill and putting that pin hem on it, they could have very easily used a piece of fabric that was wider, folded it in half so that there wasn't a hem to do. Sometimes they intentionally make stuff harder just to test their ability with certain skills, and this was definitely one of those. Gainer's collar gap was a bit of an odd one. She, I would guess, has stretched the neckline out, which is really easy to do. It's why we stay stitch, but I can't imagine there's a lot of time for that sort of stuff. But I'd have rather she had a bigger gap at the back than at the front, because my view is always, let's not worry about what's behind us. I mean, she'd have got some grief from the judges about it regardless. Now, the transformation challenge, these painters' overalls to an asymmetrical garment, 90 minutes. I think they were given 2 pieces. I only had 1 pair of painty overalls, so that's all I've used. I decided it would be enough. They all felt a little bit like they'd run out of steam. Just energy-wise in the room during the challenge, it felt a little bit low. Although I really enjoyed this challenge. I had a lot of fun with it. And there were some interesting pieces produced, although Orla's was standout stunning, it has to be said. And then we finished off with our pop art inspired made to measure, a wonderfully classic theme with some lovely great inspiration points by all. And I think the thing I love the most is you could tell the contestants that enjoy a challenge each week, and there were a few of them that had really got their teeth into what was being produced here. From the wired hems to the dress made of paper, fun was definitely being had, which I love. Now, as much as I absolutely adored what Kit had produced, and there was a huge amount of work involved in it, the thing that got me was this was for a visual medium. I don't think the paper translated on screen, and I think had he not been making it with that added complexity, maybe the handbag debacle would have not been quite as bad. The concept I was totally on board with, and I think if it had been for a graduate show where you're actually physically seeing it in person and able to interact with it, it would have made more sense. Gonna throw in, controversially, didn't agree with who went home, but that is just my opinion. Now, I am coming to an end of my transformation challenge. Honestly, I loved this. This shoulder piece, definitely put it in the wrong place on the strap, wanted it slightly further back, but it was what it was. And because I was on the time limit, I couldn't go back and change it. But I loved working with the paint. Something I feel like I might have to look into again. But you be the judges. How did I do?